Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And for those who are watching us from different time zones, good morning or good evening, wherever you may be. And I have seen excitedly that my connections and followers has increased again for the past few weeks. And so I would like to do an introduction of myself. I'm Mary Lynn. I'm the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or I'll just call it CTS, and we brand ourselves as Asia's most trusted business solutions provider. And we create programs that add value and impact for leaders to stay relevant, adapt to the next normal, and ensure performance of a hybrid team. So our mission is to create more sustainable transformation by empowering leaders through customized solutions that drive outcomes and impact. So we have served over 6,500 leaders from over 30 countries in different industries, including Petronas, Sony, Ayala Group, Meralco, Aboitiz Power, Manila Hotel, and Brunei Shell, to name a few. And today, our session is very special, particularly around cyber resilience, which is on proactive risk management to ensure cybersecurity or cyber resilience in your organization. And for that, I would like to actually invite my amazing panelist. Oops. Let me just look for my introduction. Okay, first we have, where is he? Okay, here you go. I'd like to introduce with you here Anthony Dayrit. He's an experienced industry leader with 20 years IT, 15 years, which is focused on information security, security operations, cyber risk management, and security project management of over $500 million. And he has intensive hands-on experience with security engineering, solutions design, security tools, as well as service sourcing, implementation, operation, both on premise and in cloud. Would you like to say anything, add on that, or say hi to our audience?
Thanks, Marilyn. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here with you today and really excited to share based on our topic this afternoon.
Thank you. And I'd also like to bring in Ben. Ben is currently the Chief Operating Officer for Asia Pacific with Security, a cybersecurity threat intelligence provider. He is an IT security executive with over 25 years of experience in product development, data security, network design, application development, and systems administration. He previously held roles as Vice President Information Security for Turner Tektronix Incorporated, Director for Product Development for InfoArmor, in which he was responsible for design of development of Vigilante ATI, an award-winning threat intelligence platform combining OSINT and non-OSINT and proprietary intelligence data. Would you like to add on that or say hi to our audience, Ben?
Hi, Mary Lynn. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not the least, we have here Gonzalez. Actually, his name is really Ronald, right? But most people call him Gons. He's the principal consultant and CEO of Greyback's Security. His firm focuses on cybersecurity and data privacy advisory managed services. He has been in the IT industry for 25 years with 2 decades in in various cybersecurity roles. He is the current president of the Cloud Security Alliance Philippines chapter and the chapter leader for OWASP Manila. Would you like to add anything to that?
No, but thank you very much, Len, for the introduction. Happy to be here.
Yes. Oh, so hey, Kuya Ben, according to Alejandro. Okay, so that's again an invitation for everyone to actually join us in this conversation. If you have any questions or key takeaway from the conversation, please feel free to join us and give your comments so that we know you're actually watching us. So to start with, I'd like to address the first question to Gon. So my question is, why is proactive risk management critical for cyber resilience? And what are the key elements of a strong risk management strategy?
That's for me, right?
Yes.
Okay, so thanks, Len. So resiliency, when we talk about resiliency, it's about the ability of bouncing back, right, to the last known good state, right? So a proactive cyber risk management strategy enhances resilience by reducing vulnerabilities, enabling rapid response, and ensuring business continuity. Some of the elements of a strong risk management strategy would be, a good risk identification and assessment, right? Know what you have, know what their vulnerabilities are, what the threats to it are, and then what's the risk of the threat meeting the vulnerability to that asset. And then I would say threat intelligence and monitoring, knowing what's happening outside and even inside your organization. A lot of people think that threat intelligence can only be gathered from outside the organization, but I would tell my colleagues, especially in security, if you have your SIEM logs, that I think is one of the better threat intelligence artifacts that you can have. And then I would say have a zero trust security model, just in time access, micro segmentation, and all of that good stuff, right? And then you have to have one of the things is identity and access management should be very, very strong. No? That's also tied to the zero trust architecture or model. And then you need to have good data classification, know what your data is, and then protect it. Mostly, these days it's all about encryption. And
Mhm.
then going to the organization itself, you need to have good awareness training for your employees. You also have to have very strong third party risk management, obviously. And then I guess last but not the least would be have a good incident response and recovery planning. So I think those are the elements. It's quite a few, but all of these put together should result in a more resilient organization.
Wow, thank you for sharing with us your answer on the proactive cyber risk strategy, which, of course, at the end of the day, is really about ensuring that your business is also resilient, right? Because that's the purpose of why you're actually doing so. And here are a few of what you've mentioned. Of course, risk identification, um, asset assessment, threat intelligence, strong risk management, strong third party risk, aside from what you just recently mentioned, of course, being able to have a good plan on all of these, right? Which is, of course, has to be in line with your business as well, right? Protecting your assets and all. So I would like to address the next question to Ben. Maybe you also would like to add in what Gons mentioned, because your business is really so much around threat intelligence, and he mentioned that I think two or three times at least in his sharing about about the proactive risk management. So how can organizations integrate asset and threat risk assessment to improve companies align their risk management strategies with sorry, I think I mix up everything. Sorry again. How can organizations integrate asset and threat risk assessment to improve decision making and prioritize cybersecurity efforts?
Got it. Thank you, Marilyn. So, as part of what we've been talking about, there's been a lot of buzz in the industry, cyber security or cyber resilience. And many companies have different definitions of what that may be. But really, if you look at the entire meaning of that particular mantra, if you embrace that mantra, if that is the corporate, philosophy moving forward, you have to look at all components of the company, because collectively it is the strength of cyber resilience. Now, if you look at, asset risk, it's a single component of a company,
Mhm.
but it is integral as part of cyber resilience.
Mhm.
If you look at threat intelligence, it's a vital component, but yet again, a single entity. If you look at physical security, and you can go on and on and on. And now you start to look at the components that make up a company, and you realize that every single entity is important and strengthens the cyber resilience of a particular company. So, recap, every employee, every department, every group from the top level down has an important part to play in the cyber resilience culture. And the buy in for this all begins at the top. So, as Gon said, we really begin with asset identification. We look at categorizing, knowing the assets, coming to grips with an honest inventory of your intellectual property, your hardware, your software. You create this inventory, and then you look at the criticality of each asset based on its role in the environment. And you look at the financial impact, the regulatory importance, and of course, business continuity. Those are all factors. So if you look at threat intelligence, you identify potential threats to the organization's
Mhm.
assets, that you look at all telemetries of
Mhm.
access. So cyber attacks, insider threats, system malfunctions, and your cyber threat intelligence teams need to look at historical threats, new emerging threats, and threat
Mhm.
intelligence reports. Now, if you combine most of the risk management uh, priorities and the CTI, the threat intelligence teams working together, both assets and threats are identified. And they both need to create a map which
Mhm.
identifies and affect which threats, are affecting the assets. So an example is, if the asset is a critical database, CTI team would be looking at risk from data breaches, from insider threats, from ransomware. So when they do this, this exercise then lends them to prioritize risk, working together to
Mhm.
assess evaluation of risk in the organization. So after assessing which risks are more important, CTI teams could develop enhanced controls around high priority assets and threats. Example
Mhm.
here would be to have strong encryption for, let's say, very sensitive, critical nature databases. And really at that point, risk teams can then decide either to mitigate the risk, to accept it, or avoid the risk based on a number of factors. Either it's not cost effective or really doesn't provide any further risk to the corporation. So it's really high. Both teams work together. Weekly team members, team meetings don't just become team meetings to have meetings, right? Many companies just have meetings on Fridays and for the sake of it. But really, each team comes to these meetings with an agenda, looking at they've got to do their homework. Say, hey, what has been? Is there a change in the risk of our assets? Is there a change in the threat landscape? And be able to articulate those things, bringing both unique perspectives, and requires continuous collaboration.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, and I really love how you repeatedly say that collaboration is important, and that it's not only about IT, but it's really from top to bottom, right? Everyone is responsible for the security um of the organization, and again, as you mentioned, it begins with asset identification, environment, financial impact, aside from, of course, the regulatory and how it will actually impact your business continuity. So I thank you for making short and yet all of you are actually giving all the important items in here. And so I would like to address then the next question to Anthony. How can companies align these risk management strategies with business objectives to ensure security measures do not hinder growth and innovation? Knowing that, from what Gons and Ben shared earlier, that, there's always an impact in the business as well when it comes to risk management, right?
Yeah, and thanks for asking that question, Marilyn. Over the years, and I think it's been common, especially with our colleagues within the company, when they look at security, there's a common notion that security is a blocker, right? And we as a security and cybersecurity professionals, I think it's our goal to have that kind of help them understand that we are here not to delay the project. We're here not to add additional steps for them. We are here not to add additional cost for the overall end-to-end security of the service that they're acquiring or of the application that they're deploying, or even during an M&A, or during the merger that's possibly going to happen. My keyword here is actually synergy. And when I think about that word, this is where security measures not only protect the company but also help in
Mhm.
adding value and in propelling the growth as we go on. And as I go through and look into that particular question this afternoon, there are different ways on how we want to tackle it, right? But going back to the basic, what are the strategies we could probably look into? I always look into it in a different manner, basically as answering it basically first by asking another question, right?
Mhm.
Maybe number one was, why this particular exercise or this particular strategy matters. So there are cases where when security and business teams plan together, they identify opportunities where there are different kind of products, then there are different kind of requirement as well. So number one maybe that I could say is make security as a business enabler. How do we do that? But by by having a clear collaboration with the different stakeholders, um, by having a unified understanding of what exactly is our objective, and then from there we can kind of like agree on how we can protect. Ben a while ago mentioned about asset, right? If
Mhm.
we are all aligned, a particular asset is basically a crown jewel of the company. We can easily then align on how we can protect that particular asset. Maybe number two is we always, since our topic this afternoon is risk management, I always kind of fond of risk based approach, right? If there are vulnerabilities, if there are potential threats, if there are potential kind of like uh, any negative things that might happen to your crown jewel or to your company, the always question is what will be the impact, right? So that kind of like risk level approach. So we embrace the risk management process. Maybe the third one is we can promote fostering collaboration in terms of not just with our IT colleagues. My point number one a while ago is collaboration, but that's within the business itself. But the
Mhm.
common notion as well is how can then we align with whatever policies that we have, what's actually working the ground. So if we have kind of like a friction between cyber and the business, there is kind of like an unspoken friction between security and our IT colleagues as well, in terms of our policies being implemented, in terms of standards that we are pushing through, in terms of processes that we need in terms of complying with a certain regulatory requirement. So understanding what's actually works in the ground, and then basically meeting in between on how we can operationalize the processes that we have is something that we can probably look into as well. um I also don't want to look into and kind of like skip the importance of technology as well. So another point that we can also do is to leverage technology to drive efficiency. AI is there now, right? So there is a balance between how we can help the business move forward faster, like first to market, and at the same time how we can protect the business in terms of potential data loss, potential intellectual property unauthorized access, for example. Maybe another last point that I'll probably mention here is to communicate the value of what we do to the different level of stakeholder, right? Different level of the whole ecosystem. Like communicate what we do from the engineers level, from the bid managers level, and more importantly to the stakeholders who actually back us up in terms of how we can then push for the required security processes that we have. And the last point that I mentioned is really important is if you don't have the expertise within the company, is this is a time for you to also consider partnering like the security, right? So if you have that capability and requirement from the business, you engage an expert on how you can help you not just from the policy perspective, but an expert on how you can operationalize it in the ground. So I think in the summary, this I think that's one way for us to um, enforce and consider in terms of the strategies that we have for risk management.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And what I'm hearing from you, if I were to summarize it, it's really like goes back to really collaborating with each other, right? Not only, again, we wanted to highlight that this is not IT's responsibility, but of every stakeholders within the organization, right? And first and foremost, again, like what also Ben and Gons mentioned, it's really understanding what are the assets that you're protecting, right? It's really that understanding and how you can actually work together to do so. We have quite a lot of comments here. Before I proceed to the next question, which I believe is connected to one of the questions here, um, from Saraj. This is actually probably connected to the next question. Saraj was asking, in a zero trust approach, should we trust the AI model used in our security solution? Who would like to address that? Thank you for that amazing question, Saraj.
Yeah, so let I answer that actually in the chat box, right? So
Ah,
I
okay.
did answer that there's this principle of zero trust of never
Mhm.
trust, always verify.
This one.
So we always need to properly vet everything, not only AI, right, in our
Mhm.
environment,
Mhm.
and then also practice the principle of least privilege. Give AI only the information that it needs and nothing more.
Mhm. Thank you. And of course, Alejandro also asked a question, which I believe you've also written um your
Yeah,
answer.
well,
But for
bits
the
and
purpose
pieces,
of our
yes.
audience, yeah, for the purpose of our audience who cannot read probably the comments, let's just verbalize it. So, what are the different factors that you should consider in prioritizing or managing risk? Which should be first or last? So, I think
So
you've
yeah,
mentioned that as well earlier,
yeah, I
right?
mentioned, yeah. So in terms of managing risk, definitely number one would be safety of people, right? Whether it be your employees, your customers, etc. And then the second would be compliance to regulation, statutes, and contractual obligations. And then third would be business impact.
Business impact. So that's very interesting. Sometimes, we always hear that a lot of businesses are actually looking into the business impact or the dollar dollar first before anything. But I'm glad that you reiterated, first and foremost is the safety of the people,
Yes,
compliance.
especially now, Len, when you have convergence, right, between IT and OT, right, you need to be more aware of how security impacts the safety of people. Like, for
Mhm.
example, if you're driving a semi or even an automated car, or you have all of these IoT stuff that you're interacting with in your environment, you need to think about primarily the safety of people.
Exactly. And that's also the purpose of doing safety. It has to be holistic, right? Not just about cyber, but like security as a whole, right?
Yes.
So part of the AI question I would say is my next question, which I would like to address to Ben and Gons. So what role does AI and automation play in continuous monitoring and predicting cyber risk, and how can organizations effectively implement these technologies? Speaking of technology and AI, would you like to go first, Ben?
Sure. Sure. So, first I want to clarify mm, really that AI is not the magic fix. That this that magic fix component that cyber practitioners are jumping to. They hear the term AI. Oh, we got to jump on the AI bandwagon. We don't want to be at the end of it. Well, the problem, is AI is only going to be as effective as what it is programmed to be. So, you take AI and you take the other term, ML, machine learning, and
Mm-hmm.
these, two technologies can learn algorithms that can analyze vast amounts of data at lightning speed. And they detect anomalies in the
Mm-hmm.
network in real time. So by learning all of this, and I did say learning, not just putting it in and expecting it to be able to give you any type of decision making capacity, by learning the normal network behavior, AI can identify deviations, unusual traffic patterns, unauthorized access attempts that may be precursors to a cyber attack,
Mm-hmm.
such as a DDoS or a data breach. And once that threat is identified, AI can automatically trigger immediate responses. But remember this: the responses have to be programmed so that AI can return the proper result. Because when using AI, all possible results should be inputted for proper context. Like an example, AI may give a answer whereby a human cybersoc analyst says, well, no, it's this, because that should be obvious. Well, the context of the response means that, that was not programmed into AI. So you have to be very careful about the expected responses. So you have to be very careful about how you program it. So, remember that all possible results have to be inputted for maximum effectiveness. And let's talk about the next step after that, because the AI, is great, but people want to use it for some type of predictive risk analysis. And we AI can protect or can predict potential attack vectors by analyzing historical data points. All right, it applies it to the current network infrastructure, and it helps organizations anticipate and prepare for emerging risks before they actually fully materialize. But this is again predicated that AI has historical data points and intelligence feeds, which makes these decisions. So you have to be able to just not throw in responses. You have to be able to articulate and input valid data inputs in order for AI to make proper contextual decisions for you. And that is where threat intelligence comes in. As part of the decision making capability of AI, data from dark web sources, from phishing attempts, malware databases, global attacks used in the AI decision-making process. This can help organizations obtain in near real time insights on what new threats and vulnerabilities that may be, coming their way. So it's extremely important to assess and correlate all the data points, all the points of telemetry that threat actors use into the customer networks. So, AI can provide assistance with routine security tasks, such as, system health checks, patch management. The value proposition here is that it frees up cybersecurity professionals to do more human intelligence work, like threat hunting, or, really reduce the amount of alert fatigue for SOC analysts when they see a lot of alerts coming in, and they, be able to manage threats over the noise. So, it constantly needs to be fine tuned. It needs to be modified to provide and look at the entire cyber threat landscape in order to provide maximum valued and desired outcomes for customers. That's my take on it.
Cool.
Thank you for that take. I actually shared some of the summaries on the line here on the banner here. So Gons, how about you?
Well, Ben could not have said it all better, but yeah. So I guess the key takeaways right there is that AI is a tool that could help cybersecurity professionals detect threats faster and then reduce our own response time. So it's all a matter of as Ben said, having a good quality training model and data to be put into the AI so that it knows how to help us move faster.
Mhm. Thank you. I really appreciate that, summarizing it to just simple two sentences. And so I would like to now, I mean, we've talked about AI technology from, from leadership, stakeholders to what are the important assets that you are protecting. So now let's go back to the culture among employees, because we couldn't stress enough how important it is, right? The people component within this. So I'd like to address my next question to Anthony on how can organizations foster a risk-aware culture among employees to ensure cybersecurity is a shared responsibility, which every one of us here has been like highlighting since we started, right?
My If I'm going to summarize, the answer here is to lead by example. And when I say lead by example, unfortunately there are environments where no matter how the cybersecurity, IT security personnel implement policies, standards, or processes, if the senior management is not leading by example, yes, they do support probably in paper, but if you don't see they don't walk the talk, basically, it's a disaster waiting to happen. So that's a number one case for me. You need to basically lead by example. So
Mhm,
all the champions, leadership from the senior management actually sets the tone for the entire organization, right? From executives. I have this requirement in a couple of years back. I was tasked to kind of like revamp the security awareness of the company. And what I make sure that I do first is I will ensure that all of the C levels finish the training before we
mhm,
then roll it out within the company, and we make sure uh, that all each one within the company is following it. That whatever security awareness that we have implemented. Maybe number two that I could share to foster that particular culture is making the training engagement relevant. Now,
mhm,
sometimes we have, again, from the compliance perspective, we just do security awareness for the sake of just checking the box. We've implemented security awareness for this month. We're done. But
mhm,
but how do we make it more engaging? How do we make it more relevant? Basically, what are the real world scenarios? What are the maybe activities that have happened from the similar industry that we have? What are
mhm,
the lesson learned we can take from there, and how we can then move forward internally? So that's part of the continuous learning. Maybe also we can foster open communication. It might be very helpful also on environment where you know it's not really practice. So kind of like a 360 feedback of the overall cybersecurity posture. What are things we can improve on? Things that's not working in the ground. Things that we need more information from. So basically, so that's one thing that we could also consider. Another one is to integrate cybersecurity in a day-to-day activities, right? Not just we implemented the training now, but we don't really walk the talk, right?
mhm,
So, what are the things that we do? Let's say, for example, we have a policy in terms of how do we push standards, like secure by default, secure by design. how can we then integrate that in our projects day to day. I think Gons mentioned about just in time approval, right? So that how we can then make sure we operationalize that in a
Mhm.
day to day function. I'm always going back in collaboration as well, and how we can then make sure that we have a cross
Mhm.
functional collaboration as well. And then it's also important for us to recognize and reward good practices. So things that we know that's being followed by certain employee diligently, or certain department, for example, we can probably think of something to reward and kind of like encourage other department to follow suit, not because of the price, but to follow the good practices that we have implemented. Maybe we can also consider personalizing it, right? So sometimes when we do security awareness, what does it mean for me personally?
Mhm.
Then if you secure the staff, it will basically follow securing whatever they do in the office as well. So that particular culture that we might also need to kind of like consider. Now,
Mhm.
being part of the risk management, policy management, and compliance team, sometimes we do a lot of holy books, right? We have the
Mhm.
processes, we have the guidelines, but are this accessible to the users, right? We don't really expect them to memorize the whole article 1, 2, 3, 4, but at least they know where to go if they need to consult on things that they need to follow on to. And maybe last number is not last point for me, is to make sure we practice, we simulate, right? So be tabletop exercises, be a disaster recovery, business continuity exercise. It's something that we make sure that we are ready in terms of how we can act when that particular scenario happens. So I think that's one way that our audience can consider in terms of how they can improve culture wise. Sometimes there's another saying, it takes a village to bring up a children, right? So something like, how do we protect a certain staff? So it's a collaboration within the company itself, and it starts from the top.
Mhm. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's like you're describing also what I do around training. It's really like, at the end of the day, despite that there's training, there's awareness, how are you actually implementing all of these, right? Because it's not enough that we train the people. We wanted
Mhm.
to make sure they are using those training, they're implementing it, and they're living it, right? So thank you so much for that. And we have a question here from, or yeah, a question from Saraj again. How can AI help organizations predict and mitigate cyber risk before they materialize? I guess this is from the previous question before, Anthony, or related to that at least. Would like to answer this question.
I guess I'll take a stab at it. So, really what I think from a threat intelligence standpoint, we
Mhm.
look at defensive solutions, point products that identify, block, detect malware, and all that. But we really don't understand the threat, and it's understanding the threat which really protect the asset.
Mhm.
Because if you're just blocking for the sake of blocking or detecting or quarantining, you really don't understand what threat actors are trying to do. I think I've said this before in several of your seminars, Marilyn, that we don't recognize the enemy, and that we are
Mhm.
in a cyber war here. They want to take away all of our PII. They want to monetize it. So, just in short summary, it is really getting the intelligence about what these threats are,
Mhm.
where they are coming from. It's in simple terms, if you were to use the analogy of going to war, your competitors or your opponents always try to get threat information on you. What is your
Mhm.
position? What is your location? What do you plan on doing as you try to get on them? We're not doing that in cybersecurity. We're just being defensive. So,
Mhm.
let's take an offensive turn. Offensive cybersecurity also means that you help your risk team because you give them preemptive factors before data breaches actually happen.
Mhm.
So this helps immensely protect the data risk posturing of any given company. So that's what I believe in terms of the convergence of threat intelligence and risk.
Thank you. And I hope, Saraj, that answers your question. I would believe so. So I really appreciate all of you. I mean, I'm so grateful that I'm with like three experts here. I would want one female here, but I didn't make it. But at least, the I think the experience of the three of you is like over probably over 75 75 years.
Not that old.
Not that old, I mean, all together. But at least, I mean, they know that I'm speaking with experts here, and that's very obvious because in 40 minutes we managed to actually bring them through a holistic way of what proactive risk management really is all about and what's in it for your business, right? So, with that, I would like to invite all of you. I think, Ben, you don't want to answer this magic wand question anymore. For Anthony, since you've never been to my live before, so I'll ask you this question first. If you have a magic wand and can use it, what will you do with it? Particularly perhaps in, risk management.
Okay, if I only have one wish to wave that magic wand, I'll probably ask for 10 more. Wave, no, I'm just kidding. Oh, so yeah, so for every organization, right? Maybe what I can think of is to have that forward mindset thinking.
Mhm,
Uh Ben mentioned about offense, and I'm really into it. Sometimes we
mhm,
have the tendency to like into what are the defenses that we have, but we are missing on understanding on how we can protect better by understanding how the attackers actually think. So kind of like understanding with the blend of vigilance, adaptability in terms of how our topic today is resilience and how we can probably adapt, uh, and maybe just having that proactive mindset and
mhm,
having the support of all, again going back to the collaboration thing,
mhm,
to the support of all of the stakeholders, and having that unified understanding and unified decision into going to that particular objective. Because the challenge here is that we have different mindset, different perspective, and different way of doing things. So only if you have that, I don't know if it's impossible, but if we have that kind of magic wand, it should have been better, I guess.
Thank you. Although I said that we're supposed to be ending this session already, I just saw that Saraj asked us a question, which is related to the earlier question, I would say, on what are the most effective ways to engage employees in cybersecurity training and avoid training fatigue. Any ideas from any one of you?
Maybe I'll take that. Sorry, guys. Maybe
Go
I'll
ahead.
just a quick one. Maybe I'll go back to what I mentioned a while ago, and in terms of engagement, right? How can we properly engage instead of like asking them to sit and wait and look for the PPT for the next 2 hours?
Mm-hmm,
So what is actually is in terms of personalization, what's in it for me
mm-hmm,
going through this particular training? And it actually depends on who are you delivering the training to, right? For example, if in the past I've been training the developers, like really those that are coding, and you cannot just expect them to sit for within your training for the next 2 hours. So one alternative is you create a CTF kind of training for them to have an understanding with the codes that they're working on, and how can then they, from attacker perspective, understand how easily can certain software be broken, for example. So that's the two things that I could probably think of: engage and customize it on the way depending on your audience.
I really love how you are promoting my company. Just guns.
Yeah, but yeah, so adding what from what Anthony said, which is great, right? I mean, having that sort of like a level of training and awareness in situations or contexts. I would add to that, engaging with employees should be on a very personal basis, right? Let's not talk about securing the company, corporate
Mhm.
data, because that sometimes is, they get numb to it, right? Because they hear it all the time, they see it
Sure.
on their emails. So bring it to
Mhm.
their level of understanding. Like for example, how do I make good passwords for my Facebook, for my Gmail, for my
Mhm.
Instagram, for all my socials, right? And then how could I protect, for example, my kids at home in terms of accessing certain sites on over my home Wi-Fi? If you make things personal to them, they will they will get the gist and the principles of cybersecurity, and
Mhm,
then and hopefully they apply it to the corporate side of things.
mhm. Thank you. And again, that goes back to how you customize it, personalize it, and make it as relevant as possible to them, right? And so, would you like to continue on, Gons, with your magic wand, or at least answering what emerging risk should organization prepare for, and how can you future proof their risk management strategies?
So we in cybersecurity always tell people there's no such thing as a silver bullet or a magic wand, right? But if I had one, I would say wave it and say that maybe um, make our information assets and infrastructure bulletproof.
Mhm.
That software code is perfect, infrastructure configuration is flawless. But then again, I would not have a job. So
Yes.
so I'll be retiring myself, right, and probably go to farming or being a content creator. But but going into emergent and emerging risks. We're always on the watch out for AI powered cyber threats. The big talking points of the past couple of years is AI in security and security for AI. So it's an ongoing conversation. Then that should be done, from the board level up to the technical level. And then the second I would say would be um, quantum computing threats, right? Like how we would now have to apply post quantum cryptography for our data, so that when the time comes that quantum computing is beyond 22 bytes of decryption, then we can be assured that our data is safe.
Thank you. And Ben,
No magic wand. It got
no
hacked,
magic
so I'm not going
wand.
to use it.
So, but the question is, how can they future proof their risk management strategies? Is there anything that you'd like to add or leave our audience with?
I think very simply, it is continuous evolution. You
Mhm,
have to be connected to the current landscape. It will always evolve. It
mhm,
constantly evolves. It has
mhm,
to. And unless you get into the offensive realm of trying to engage and predict a lot of these by implementing some of these new technologies,
mhm,
uh you will constantly be defensive and you will be targets for hackers. So
mhm,
I mean, basically, if you keep abreast of the new threat landscape, your risk team continuously monitors and assesses their critical assets. I think that puts you in the best possible position right now, unless and the technology will change. We'll see what happens in the next
Thank you. And again, it's always continuous evolution. Be more offensive, I would say, keeping abreast of all the threats that are coming in. So thank you so much. I have three handsome guys here who's helping me on this discussion on proactive risk management. And of course, I would like to segue by sharing with you again with our upcoming 2025 Cyber Resilience Summit, which will be inaugurated in the Philippines We have done our, I mean, all of the handsome guys that are here are not new to me. They've supported me as well with my previous interviews and in our previous virtual summit. And these are just a sample of what you can actually expect on the upcoming March 5 and 6 Cyber Resilience Summit. So we look forward to having um, everyone, leaders, CISOs, CIOs, CTOs, and other stakeholders who would like to understand better what cyber resilience is and how you can actually help as well promote this cyber resilience within your organization. So do join us. Register now because we're closing our registration soon. And looking forward to having all of you. And I would like to give take this opportunity as well to thank our sponsors. We have Security here. We have Managed Engine, and interestingly, I do have also like non cybersecurity organizations, and that's what collaboration is, right? We also have, of course, Sean Appleby and Phil Pass, as well as we are giving away prizes actually during the event. I do have like overnight accommodations from Alta Roca, as well as GCs for from restaurants like Frankie's Buffalo Wings. Yum. So excited, looking forward to giving that away, and looking forward to seeing all of you, not only to win those prizes that I just mentioned, but also, of course, to collaborate with us and create some other solutions and to understand all those best practices that we can actually implement in our organization. Because again, cyber security is actually a huge challenge that we face globally, but of course together we can strengthen our adaptability and our capacity to be able to address each of these challenges that we face, right? So looking forward to collaborating with all of you, and looking forward to seeing you in March. And just a side comment as well, I haven't responded to most of you. Thank you so much for the birthday love.
Oh
Thank you for
yes,
all the birthday
happy
greetings I have received. I'll be responding to you soon. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live, especially those who joined us live and engaged with us today. Thank you so much, Anthony, Ben, and Gons,
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank
And
you.
see you March. Bye for
See
now.
you.
Bye bye now.
birthday.
Bye bye.